Welcome to the Abrams Dicta YouTube channel. Subscribe today and join me, David Abrams, as I explore the world on my Italian scooter and talk about life, law, art, and any other subject that catches my interest. Also, please check out my blog at abramsdicta.com. Although I'm a licensed attorney, nothing here should be taken as legal advice or counsel. If you're looking to contact me professionally, please go to my website, www.dhabramslaw.com. Welcome back for another episode of Abrams Dicta. We are headed north on Thomasville Road here in Tallahassee, and it's another beautiful spring day here. It's just a gorgeous day. It's actually starting to get kind of warm here. I'm thinking a few more degrees, and I'm going to be taking the liner out of this jacket that I wear. I wear a Kevlar jacket for safety, just in case I ever hit the pavement here. I really should wear pants. I generally wear blue jeans. I'm wearing jeans today, they're difficult when you're going in and out of shops and running errands, as I am today. Anytime I go a long ways, though, I wear the Kevlar pants as well as the jacket. And anyhow, today we're going to take a run through the Waverly neighborhood of Tallahassee. This is a really a great neighborhood. I have friends who've lived over here, and it's really nice. It's a nice neighborhood. It's a kind of a upper middle class neighborhood here in Tallahassee, and a lot of people really like it because it's fairly close in. We're really not. We're 5 minutes from downtown Tallahassee right here, and it's Waverly Hills, and it's not a new neighborhood, but it's I wouldn't call it an old neighborhood either. I guess it probably dates back to the 1960s. Let's see if we can get across here, get out of some of this heavier traffic here. And Waverly is interesting because I think Waverly, like a lot of these neighborhoods close to downtown. I mean, look at this. This is gorgeous, right? In the coming years, as the density of the city increases, I think these neighborhoods are going to really come under a lot of pressure, and a lot of it goes to this whole idea of we own property, right? You buy a house. Say somebody buys that house over there, and what are they buying, right? What do you buy when you buy a house? Is it yours forever, or is there times when people can change the rules? And what are our expectations? So someone who buys in here today, they're clearly buying into what they expect to be a neighborhood of single-family homes. Right? And I saw this recently. I don't know, not recently. It's been 6, 7, 8 years ago when someone tried to open a synagogue near here, and a lot of the neighbors came out and protested. And they said, this is not a place where a synagogue should be. This is all residential housing. It'll destroy the neighborhood. They were really alarmed. And the reality was that their neighborhood was changing, and they had opened a lot of churches. It wasn't even in the neighborhood. It was actually on one of the roads, the main roads that paralleled it. But their neighborhood has been changing, and you can see that's new construction over there. It's a great looking house. This also looks like new construction. So a lot of the old stuff that was built in here in the 1960s and stuff, and it's going away. But as Tallahassee is growing, and you see this in a lot of cities, they create these beautiful single-family housing neighborhoods, and then the city grows out past it. You certainly see it in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a wonderful city. I love LA, but I would never live there because I could never afford the property. And what happens when you preserve a lot of area for single-family housing with large lots like this is you drive the housing prices up. And the other thing that will happen is when people can't build apartment buildings and things like that close to downtown, which this is close to downtown, you're forcing that development further and further out, which means that you're increasing people's commutes. That has environmental impacts. It really impacts a lot of people. And so you've kind of got this yin and yang in property law with the rights of the individual owning the home and the rights of the greater society to have functioning neighborhoods and functioning communities. And I think it's been a real factor for LA, because LA is, my understanding, and I may be wrong about this, but LA is actually divided up into a lot of small neighborhoods, all of which set their own zoning and land use rules. And of course, nobody wants to give up and let their neighborhood be the place where apartment buildings are built. So you've got a lot of single-family housing, but it's become so expensive that a lot of people just can't even afford to live there anymore. And I have concerns. Tallahassee isn't anywhere near that yet. There's still it's a very affordable, but we are seeing the pressures of growth here. Downtown, the density is increasing dramatically in the last few years, and I think that will probably spill out into neighborhoods like this. And so I think you're going to see more conflict between neighborhoods like this who want to preserve their character and the need to provide, higher density housing at a reasonable cost that is proximate to downtown. So you don't have to build major freeways to get people to and from their houses. I mean, one of the nice things about life in Tallahassee right now is most of us don't have long commutes. And it takes me 15 minutes at the most to get from my house to downtown, and that's really nice. So like I say, property law is very interesting because you really don't become king of your property. You actually buy a right to use the property. People talk about property law as if it's this sacred right that's been handed down for millennia and it's never changed, and that's not true at all. If you ever notice, when you buy a house, you generally are getting a deed in fee simple. Well, that's a term of art that's rooted in really the Middle Ages, when the king owned everything, and the king would give deeds to people to use land. Right? He might give you the deed to run a tavern or something, a building, but you didn't own it. That building and that tavern, that belonged to the king, and the king could take it back, and you really didn't have any inheritance rights. So you couldn't, you couldn't build a farm and necessarily give it to your kids. And so that's where the law is really developed, where this idea of being able to inherit real property. We talk about land in the United States as if it belongs to us individually, but the reality is it's as much the government's as it is ours, right? It is, we use it according to the government's rights that they give us. And if you go further out, like out west and stuff, you can have several people that own claims to the same piece of property. Somebody might own the mineral rights, but somebody else, they own the water rights. And that's, that makes for very interesting legal problems. What do you do if you own a piece of land and it's on a river, but and you say maybe you got a cattle ranch, and then the guy further upstream from you, he starts taking all the water, and all of a sudden your cattle ranch is starving. None of us owns property to the exclusion of our neighbors, right? We are human beings. We're communal people, or we're communal creatures. And so when we talk about property rights and things like that, there is the individual, but there's also the larger societal purpose. And I remember, I think it was a scenario, I don't think it was a real case, but I remember when I was in law school, they talked about a guy who built a house, and somebody buys the land next door to him, and they put a slaughterhouse on it. So, all of a sudden he's got his house, he's out in the country, it's real calm and stuff, and the next thing he knows, they're shipping in cattle and they're slaughtering them, and he's got all the noise and the smell of the slaughterhouse next door to him. Think about that. That costs you money, right? That other person exercising his right to use his land would devalue your property. So, there are a lot of interesting questions when it comes to ownership of property that the law has to deal with. And I'm not a real property lawyer, so I don't generally deal with them, but I find the questions to be very interesting. And I think maybe, hopefully you do too. And we can explore this further in another issue of Abrams Dicta. But I thank you guys for taking the ride with me today.